Clay from Brooklyn, Football with the Fellas. It's all about Big Blue. Here to follow up on what Mazo dropped a little while ago about the Giants' 2025 schedule. The schedule is out, and I don't know. It does not look promising. So he asked me to come on and give my prediction, my way too early prediction on what our record might be. And obviously, lots of people are doing this, with all the teams. And clearly, we have no idea, right? Like injuries alone will change a lot of the outcomes of these games. No team goes through a whole season without injuries, and no team's slate of opponents go through a whole season without injuries. So who knows? We haven't even, we haven't even got all 90 people in camp yet, much less knocked it down to 53 to see who's going to actually make the team and who's going to be in a practice squad, yada, yada, yada. That said, since the schedule is out, let's take a look at it and let's see what we think, or at least what I think might happen based on mostly last year plus, off-season additions. So we saw it week one, as Mazo mentioned, against the Commanders, and that's realistically, that's a loss. Like that's the team who went to the NFC Championship game last year. Their now second-year quarterback, Jaden Daniels, looks like he's a beast. That team looks very good, period. Yeah, that's a loss. Then we play the Cowboys in week two. Now, how many years can we get our hopes up for beating Dallas and thinking that we have a shot at beating Dallas? I remember a couple of years ago, we played them the first week of the season and they beat us 40-0. And we went into that game thinking, oh yeah, we can hang with Dallas. We had just come off of a playoff run and we're like, yeah, we're just as good as Dallas. Daniel Jones is just as good as Dak Prescott, all yada, yada, yada. And they beat us 40-0. And Andrew Thomas, was gone for half the season because he got injured in the first series of the game. First series of the season. So I say all that to say, I am not predicting we're going to beat Dallas until we beat Dallas. They got to show me we can beat Dallas before I start making that prediction. So 0-2. Week three is Kansas City Chiefs, 0-3, and moving on. Week four, we play the Chargers. I'm not as big a believer in the Chargers as a lot of people seem to be, but they're certainly a very solid team, and there's no reason that we should think that we can beat them. So 0-4. Then finally comes the Saints, and the Saints are struggling, and their quarterback, Derek Carr just retired. So obviously that's a big hole in what their prospects for the year had been, what their plans for the year had been. Tyler Shuck looks like, the quarterback is likely to be the starter in that game. So can we beat Tyler Shuck? Yes, we can certainly beat Tyler Shuck. He has not show me anything in college make me think that he's going to walk into the pros and in the first month or so have it all figured out. What I do think is possible is that they add another quarterback. Maybe Jameis Winston. Maybe we make a trade with them and send them Jameis Winston back. I think that's a very real possibility. And if it's not Jameis Winston, maybe it's somebody who Cleveland, who has like 85 quarterbacks in house, gets rid of. So it may not be Tyler Shuck because it might be somebody from Cleveland or from our team. But I do think that team is struggling, and that's a very possible win for us. Of course, if I'm a New Orleans Saints fan and looking at the schedule, I see the Giants week 5, I'm like, oh, that's a game we can win. So like nobody's going to be afraid of the Giants. But I'm going to say that's a likely win. And if there's any wins at all, it's probably going to be this one. So 1-4. Then I think the Eagles is a loss. The defending Super Bowl champions are, not even we're not in their league. So yes, that's a loss. So we started off 0-4. We got a win against the Saints, and now we're 1-5 because of the Eagles. What comes after that? The Broncos. Again, I'm not as big a believer in the Broncos as a lot of other people seem to be. Like the Chargers, they're a team that is a good team, right? They're an ascending team. I don't think they're a great team. I think it wouldn't shock me if we beat them, but I'm certainly not picking us to beat them. So yeah, I think that's going to be a loss. And then what do? We play the Eagles again. So we have the Eagles twice in 3 games, twice in 19 days. And that is not going to go well. 18 days, excuse me. That's not going to go well for us. So yeah, we're going to lose 4 in a row. Then I think we can beat the Saints, and then we're going to lose 3 in a row. So now we're 1-7. And then week 9, we get a light team from out west called the 49ers. Another loss. So after 9 weeks, I think there's one game that I think that we have a reasonable chance to win, and that's the Saints game. So Hopefully we win that one because 1-8 is already miserable. 0-9 would be, full of the tents. Maybe that costs Dable his job, maybe Shane as well. So I'm hoping, like best case scenario, I think we're 2-7 after 9 games, but I think we're likely to be 1-8. Finally, we get the Bears. Not that the Bears are, easy, but that's relative to the other teams we're playing. That should be a game that we look forward to because that's a team that is not as good as many of the other teams that we've just been lining up against. So I'm going to give us a shot against the Bears. So let's say we beat the Bears. Okay, so we're 2-8 after week 10. But then here comes the Packers and here comes the Lions, right? So we have the NFC North and, we get 3 of them in a row: Bears, Packers, Lions. I don't see us being the Packers or the Lions. I don't see anyone on the planet thinking we're going to be the Packers or the Lions. Again, barring any unforeseen injuries. So that means that we're probably 2-10 after 12 weeks, and that's if we beat the Saints and the Bears. But then finally we get the Patriots, another team that's struggling, another team that's ascending. Although, their quarterback Drake May looked pretty decent towards the end of last year. So, I'm sure they're looking at this game as a win for them. But let's say that the Patriots are a team that is in our weight class, so to speak. So I'm going to say that, we got to find some win somewhere. I'm going to give us a win against the Patriots. So now after 13 games, we're, according to my predictions, 3-10. And then we get the bye week. And as Mazo said, if we're 3-10 going to the bye week, I think that's the time that we move on to Jackson Dart. Like, what is the point of not playing Jackson Dart if we're actually 3-10 and clearly out of any contention? We'll say, let's see what the rookie has. He's going to be the future. Obviously, what we have hasn't worked. So let's move on and see what he has. So I think I agree with Mazo. I think Jackson Dart gets those last 4 starts. Unfortunately, they're against the Commanders and then the Vikings. So his first 2 starts will be probably L's. Now, who knows exactly how good the Vikings are going to be, but they were 14-3 last year. So, and we were 3-14. So it seems to me that if I was a betting man, I'm not, but if I was a betting man, I would bet that somehow the rest of the Vikings, Sam Darnold's gone, but the rest of the Vikings are still better than the Giants plus whatever we've added if we went from 14-3 to 3-14. Okay, so that's 2 losses for Jackson Dart, and then he finally gets the Raiders in his 3rd game. And I think the Raiders are a team that is struggling and trying to, find their identity. Now, Geno Smith, they just signed Geno Smith this year, so Geno Smith has been a much better quarterback like the last few years than he was earlier in his career. So who knows if Geno Smith is still healthy, and if some of the other pieces they've added can, start to gel, then maybe that's not as easy a game as I'm imagining. But again, looking for wins on this schedule, the Raiders look like a team that perhaps we can hang with. So I'm going to say that's a winnable game, which would be the 4th winnable game, right? So far we got the Saints, we've got the Bears, we've got the Patriots, and now the Raiders as the 4 winnable games. And then we end the season with the Cowboys, and who knows? Like if Dallas has the playoffs locked up and they're resting their starters, maybe we can beat their backups. If Dallas has gone through some injuries, if Dak Prescott has, is out for the season again, as he has been a few times in the last couple of years, maybe we can beat the Cowboys. But again, I'm not in the business of predicting that we're going to beat the Cowboys until we beat the Cowboys. So I'm going to say I don't think we're going to win that game. So that leaves us with 4 wins, 4-13. Now, in all likelihood, we won't win all 4 of the games that I considered winnable. But also in all likelihood, we probably won't lose all 13 of the games that I considered not winnable. So if we trade off 1 of each, we lose 1 of the 4 we should have won, but we win 1 of the 13 we should have lost. That sounds about right to me. I think 4-13 sounds about right. I'm going to give us the benefit of the doubt and say that maybe we win 2 of the 13 games that I thought we would lose and only lose 1 of the games that I thought we would win, meaning that we wind up with 5 wins. So I think the upside, the high side, is 5-12. I think 4-13 is likely. I think we're more likely to be 3-14 again than we are to win 6 or more games. 6 games would really, really surprise me. Again, barring unforeseen injuries to other players on other teams. So that's my prediction. I think we're going to go 4-13. I think we have a shot at 5-12, and I think that's about it. but I'd love to hear what you think. So as always, drop us a comment. Let us know what you think. Grab that like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Share it with a friend. But let us know what you think. That's what I think. Clay from Brooklyn. Football with the fellas. All about Big Blue. And I'm out.
Big shout out to L Marquee Productions, the talent behind the music and production here at Football with the Fellas. It's all about Big Blue. Their beats bring energy and excitement to every episode. L Marquee's skills in mixing, mastering, and creating top quality sound make the podcast come alive each week. For your own projects, check out lmarqueeproductions.com and take your sound to the next level.